Are we finally going to see the Canon RF 200 to 500 mm f4? Will it have a built-in teleconverter with multiple zoom levels? And what about the future of Canon Pro level teleconverters? Well, I've got the answer to these questions direct from Canon in this video. But first, I have a simple and yet humble request. Please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps this channel grow, and it keeps you informed on the latest camera gear, such as pro-level lenses with teleconverters. Thanks to a recent patent application filed by Canon, we found evidence in the scope of details that points to internal teleconverters inside the super-telephoto lenses or telephoto lenses that provide multiple zoom levels, such as, well, 0 meaning no zoom, and going up to 1.4, 1.5, and 2.0. And while Canon rumors first talked about this with the Canon RF 200 to 500 mm f4, technology could be applied to all telephoto lenses. So let's take the patent details to a Gerald Undone level of detail. In Canon patent application JP 2025-028297, filed on December the 19th, 2024, and published recently on February the 28th, 2025, Canon claims to solve the following issue: to obtain good optical performance while reducing the weight of the entire system in an optical system with a variable magnification optical system that's inserted into the main optical system. Clear as mud? Well, my apologies. This is, after all, machine translated from an engineering document written in Japanese and, of course, run through the lawyer machine. But what this is essentially saying is that the image degradation that we get with teleconverters, such as a 1.4 or even a 2.x, which I have right here, well, this patent application claims to solve that image degradation. But not only that, instead of having a separate teleconverter, the lens itself has one built in. And instead of switching out a 2.0 for a 1.4, well, we're able to use a switch to switch between different magnification levels, all the way from nothing to 1.4, 1.5, or even 2.0. The patent application proposes that even with the teleconverter inserted or removed, the distance from the foremost lens surface to the image plane remains unchanged. And the main optical system, noted here by LM, includes multiple positive and negative lenses arranged in a way that ensures stable performance and maintains a predetermined optical relationship. I don't know why I bought a 2x teleconverter. I should have actually bought the 1.4, but at the time I was really excited with being able to shoot the moon for some reason. Look, you like birds, other people like landscapes. I love the moon. I don't know what it is. So what I would often do is I would take the teleconverter out. I'd do everything inside so I didn't risk getting dust in there. I'd attach the teleconverter here. And there you go. I put the cap back on until I was ready to put it on the camera. Now, if I was out shooting wildlife, and let's say this wasn't the 200 to 800, it was maybe a 400 mm prime or the 100 to 500 mm, you know, I realized I put the wrong teleconverter on, so maybe I want to take it off and put another teleconverter on. But it's a little windy, and there's a lot of dust in the air. After all, it's spring. So now I have to risk getting dust on it. I have to take it out. I might have missed the shot I wanted, so now I've got the 1.4 on there. But now I see another shot where something's a little bit closer, and I want to take it off. You see the problem. To be able to actually have a switch on here where I can say, let's go 1.4, let's go 2, or turn it off altogether. That would be huge. But not only that, to eliminate image degradation? Now that does sound like science fiction. We've been using teleconverters for years, especially with a 2.x. The image degradation is there. There's a loss of sharpness. But this patent application claims to have solved that? Wow. And could it actually happen in the RF 200 to 500 mm f4? Or is it an f5.6? And does it actually have a built-in teleconverter? The bottom line is this. This patent application leads to better performing zoom lenses, or potentially primes. And the optical teleconverters for mirrorless cameras or cinema camera systems? Well, to enhance the capabilities but also improve image quality, well, that's a really big deal. I love teleconverters, but I also hate teleconverters. Switching them out, having multiple ones, becomes a real pain. However, I can imagine that any of these new lenses coming out, such as a 200 to 500 millimeter f4 with a built-in teleconverter, certainly isn't going to be cheap. I expect a lens like that to be somewhere in the price point of the RF 100 to 300 millimeter f2.8 at near $10,000. There clearly are several obvious business implications. The most obvious is the improved image quality for high-end telephoto lenses with built-in teleconverters. And I think for most of us, having an improved image quality is probably one of the biggest enhancements here. And of course, the built-in teleconverter. But it's the modular architecture that really excites me, because to be able to have the teleconverter in there or not, and not having it change the optical qualities, that's significant. Remember, it's not just about the ability to add teleconverters to a lens. There's other things we can and want to add to the lens, and this modular architecture really supports that. But it's also from a cinema point of view. For cinema shooters, to be able to do this smoothly, that can be very, very handy. I really am looking forward to this, but I think for me, at my price points, you know, the 100 to 500 millimeter, that's kind of the high end of my price point for lenses. I really do love this lens, but putting a teleconverter on here is, well, a pain, and I'm not going to go into the headaches that causes. But most of you, or a lot of you, are very interested in what's happening with the 200 to 500 millimeter. Is it an f4? Is it an f5.6? Well, that's what we're going to talk about next. So where is the RF 200 to 500 millimeter? Is it an f4 or a 5.6? I can go all the way back to 2019 when Canon rumors first started talking about this lens, that it would be most likely a 200 to 500 millimeter, a follow-up to the RF 200 to 400 millimeter. And for the longest time, it was thought to be an f4, and then an f5.6. This lens has become a fantasy for a lot of us, and there are so many conflicting reports about it. I now have everything from it's going to be an f5.6 to an f4, all the way to it having a built-in 1.4x teleconverter. This indicates to me that Canon really hasn't finalized the lens yet, or they're doing a really good job of keeping it secret, because it was supposed to be announced in Q4 of last year, and then Q1 of this year. What's going on? Have they settled on the focal range of 200 to 500? Or is it going to be 200 to 400? Will it have a fastest aperture at f4 or f5.6? Do you know what this reminds me of? Another lens that was rumored all the way back to 2019. Every year it was supposed to come out. And you know which one I'm talking about, don't you? Yeah, it's the RF 35mm f1.2. Rumored for every year. And then in 2024, we received the RF 35mm f1.4. A VCM, a voice coil motor lens, and it can surprise a lot of us. Now, some people were really disappointed, and I have this lens. I've been shooting with it for a very long time, and one thing I can say is I like it better than the f1.2, and it's $1,000 cheaper. The one area where I think the f1.2 really stands out over the f1.4 is the quality of the bokeh and the increased depth of field. But in many other areas, it's better. It's lighter. It's still an L series. And the minimal focus distance, it's about 6 inches shorter, which means if you're doing product or food photography, you can get closer. Now, it's not a macro lens, but still, I always found that when I was shooting with the f1.2, I would get in close at certain points to frame the subject, and it would become out of focus. That extra 6 inches makes an awful lot of distance. And of course, for videographers, it's got that silent focusing motor. I really do love the f1.4. And a telltale sign of how much I like that? Well, one day I was out shooting in a very, very cold winter day, and I heard some sound. I thought, it what's making the noise here? I've got the f1.4 on. When I look down, at least I remember the battery and the memory card, but I'd left the 1.2 on instead of switching out for the f1.4. And my automatic reaction was, oh, yeah, I was disappointed in the f1.2, leading me to think that, should I just sell the f1.2 and purchase another f1.4? Here's, I think what Canon Rumors says here really sums things up, if I can get my words out properly, words speak me not. Referring to the 200 to 500 millimeter f4 or 5.6, Canon Rumors says that this is one of those lenses that's going to drive us crazy, and we're not really going to report on it until we get some confirmations. And while Q4 looks really good and we had sources telling us it was going to be Q1, and March isn't over yet, we could still get an announcement, but Canon Rumors doesn't have any validation, and one thing I know about Craig is he's got a pretty extensive roadmap for 2025. Now granted, the R3, nobody knew about that until about 12 hours before the announcement, and we've seen that with other lenses and products. Could that be here? The RF 200 to 500 millimeter f4, could it still be coming out? Well, I think Canon Rumors is leading this discussion very well. We'll just have to wait and see. We haven't received validation, but as soon as I find out more, I'll let you know. But there is some news I do want to tell you about. Since, what was it, Tuesday or Monday? Canon dropped the prices on some, well, surprising cameras. Notably, the Canon EOS R5 Mark II. Released at $42.99, the price that I paid for it, you can now buy the Canon EOS R5 Mark II for $39.99. A price that it was rumored to be, and a price that I wish it had been when I pre-ordered it back on July the 17th, and probably a date many of you would, well, wish the price had been back then, $39.99, a $300 savings. But for those of you that don't like the dynamic range of the new sensor, especially if you're shooting wildlife at high ISOs like 12,800, well, you might want to consider the Mark I because it's also dropped in price once again to $29.99. However, over Christmas, we saw the price dropping to as low as $27.99. So what I would do is, while that's a pretty good price for the Mark I, if you're not in an immediate need, I would wait just a little while longer because the lowest price we've seen over the past 4 months was $27.99, and that was right around Christmas. $27.99 is a good price. And of course, we got the Canon EOS R6 Mark II. It's back down to $19.99, its lowest price. But also, don't forget to consider refurbished because we've seen the R5 as low as $19.99 for the Mark I, and even the R6 Mark II much lower. And maybe, who knows, we'll see the R5 Mark II on a really low price. But it's not just Canon. If you're interested in the R5 or the R5 Mark II, you really should take a look at the Nikon Z8. And if you're interested in purchasing any of these cameras on sale or some lenses that are on sale, then please consider using my affiliate links down below. They really do help keep the lights on. They really support this channel. I get anywhere from 2 to 5% back, and thanks to you guys, I don't have sponsorship ads throughout this video. Not sponsor, I still can't see it. Sponsorship ads throughout the video. I don't like them. I know many of you find that the YouTube ads are a little bit annoying as well, but one thing I did to solve that problem is I pay them the $10 a month or whatever it is, and you know what? It's made the YouTube experience much better. If you've never done it, consider doing it. Spend the money, try it out for a month. And you know, if you don't want to accidentally have it recharge into your credit card, go ahead and purchase it. Then within an hour or so, go ahead and cancel it, and they'll still give you the full month. Try it out. It does make the experience a whole lot better. Anyhow, thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a great day, a great week, and we'll see you again soon.